How's it going, everybody? I got some more magic for you today with a little bit of mono black discard. This deck type hasn't been terribly great in Foundation, so it hasn't been very popular, hasn't been being run a lot, at least not in my opinion. I see it every once in a while, and it usually doesn't do very well. So I thought I would try my hand at it today. I've put together a little bit of a deck list here, kind of dipping back into those Outlaws of Thunder Junction cards, because I really enjoyed those, especially for this deck type. It was really popular. You got a lot of things like Tiny Bones joins up. I think Vadmir works really well in this type of a deck because there's so much synergy on targeting creatures as well as your opponent. So I don't see Vadmir in nearly enough decks, so I brought him back. We've got Cruel Claw's Heist, which is actually a foundation, or no, it's not Foundations. This was, no, I can't remember. But I can't remember the name of the set. But this came out along with the lizards and the otters and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure I'll remember when it doesn't matter anymore, probably while I'm recording. But we've got, let's see here, other Thunder Junction cards. We've got Karvek. Fantastic card, again, really synergizing well with these targeting effects. Big score, you know, this came out with Outlaws of Thunder Junction as well, so Hostile Investigator, a really fantastic discard mechanic creature that gives you value on top of the discard, as well as being a decent creature for 4 mana. We've got Aklazotz, a really fantastic card, again, synergizing very well with discard. It's persistent, annoying to get rid of, it has flying, it has lifelink. It's a really good card that I enjoy very much. We're only running it as a 1-of in this deck, but it always is helpful when we get it, as long as we get to play it. We do have a little bit of a lifelink synergy there with Vadmir, if Vadmir gets to stay around long enough to be able to have Menace and lifelink, but I'll be honest, that's pretty rare, which is why you don't see this card played all that much. We do have Unholy Annex, just a 2-of in this deck. It's such a good card. Getting the extra card draw can be really nice, especially when you're hurting your own hand with things like Liliana. And I do have the Soulstone Sanctuary in here, so that mixed with the Ritual Chamber side of Unholy Annex does mean that we get a few demon options if we want them, if we want to try and make that happen, to try and get a little bit more life gain that way while draining our opponent. It's kind of got to be played around a bit carefully. You may want to even save it and play it for the Ritual Chamber side first, so that you're not draining yourself super heavily in the beginning without a means of regaining life, since this isn't a demon deck, but it's still a good play around in my opinion. We have Hopeless Nightmare, obviously a really good discard card synergy here for the deck. It's one of the main ones, in fact, that plays very well with Braids, Arisen Nightmare. A legendary creature nightmare. Most of you are probably familiar. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent of their choice that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. It gives you card advantage. It lets you sacrifice things like Hopeless Nightmare and stuff like that to get value for free. Really good, and since it is a legendary creature, it synergizes with Tiny Joan Joins Up, another one of our discard cards in here. We get to play it, make our opponent discard, and then any of our subsequent legendary creatures, which we have quite a few of, will trigger a mill effect where they will lose 1 life, which will also trigger our crime triggers off of Vadmir and Karvek, so very useful there. Obviously, Bandit's Talent, probably the main card of this deck, the one that really makes it work the most. You've got, when you play it, your opponent discards a card. If they discard a land, they have to discard 2 cards. When you level it up to 1 at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they lose 2 life, and for 4, you can level it up to 3. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. So this card can give you card advantage, it gives you damage on your opponent, and it makes them discard, so it's very, very good, especially in this deck. We've got Removal, Cut Down, Go for the Throat. We've also got Liliana, which is really fantastic removal. The main reason for building this deck, the Foundation's release of Tiny Bones Baublebot Burglar. I've wanted to make this card work in a deck since I saw it come out, but discard really wasn't very popular. In Foundations, there wasn't a lot of other cards that synergized extremely well with it, except for that Rat, which isn't a super great card. not not a lot of value on like a 1/1 creature that just makes your opponent discard. So it didn't really release a lot of gas for this type of a deck in this set, but it is a legendary creature, so it plays well with Tiny Bones Joins Up. It is a 1/3, which is pretty good with a 2-drop creature. It has an ability where you can pay 4 and tap it, and each opponent discards a card. You can only activate this as a sorcery, and whenever an opponent discards a card, exile it from their graveyard with a stash counter on it. During your turn, you may play cards you don't own with stash counters on them from exile, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those cards. So, really fun card, really what kind of convinced me to go ahead and try throwing this together. We've got Cruel Claw's Heist. You can use this to make target opponent reveal their hand, choose a non-land card from it, exile that card, and if you promise a gift of allowing them to draw an additional card, you actually get that card exiled to where you can play it, which is really nice as well. It doesn't necessarily synergize with the discard entirely, because you can't like make it discard and then get it with Tiny Bones, but you can just make them discard and give them a gift of a card to be able to play something from their hand. And even if you don't do that, it's still removing a card from their hand, which is important. I think I've covered the majority of it. We have Fountain Port, not huge in this deck because we're not playing a lot of token synergistic cards, but we do have the Hostile Investigator, so you can get a lot of tokens that way that can potentially play off of it. Sometimes you may need Fish for blockers, especially with Liliana out on the field. Something like that can be really relevant. I think that's pretty much the main board. We do have a sideboard here. This is a traditional standard deck if you want to try and play it in best of 3, where it probably will do even better. We've got Cut Down, Duress for your more controlling matchups. You get to actually pick the card that you're making them discard. Glistening Deluge, this is really good, especially against any kind of primarily like rabbits right now. That's what I would say is the best thing for it. You see a lot of white and green with rabbits. Elves are green, obviously, as well, so it could be really helpful there. Maybe in Merfolk, but they're blue-green, so you could run into some issues there for the blue ones, and that's what they're predominantly. So we got Ghost Vacuum, really good graveyard hate. I recommend running it sideboard in any deck, probably. Anoint with Affliction, really good exile, super useful in those matchups where you're up against like an aggressive deck and you need to exile their creatures so that they don't die and deal damage to you. Got an extra Tiny Bones in the sideboard just in case you want to throw an extra one in a match. We've got Shieldred, which pairs fantastically with this kind of a deck anyway. The card draw off of Unholy Annex can get you health. The fact that you can draw cards with the clue tokens with the Hostile Investigator can gain you life. So there's a lot of value there as well if you need to run Shieldred, an additional body as well, because this deck actually, despite having a decent amount of creatures, can be really light on them at times. You'll have a board with nothing but like your discard stuff, which is I think the biggest weakness of this deck in my opinion. You'll run into a lot of situations where your opponent's just being really aggressive, playing a lot of creatures, and because of that you don't have the board presence to stall, and you'll just kind of be running them out of cards. They'll be top decking and playing whatever they get and just smashing your face without really caring. So that can be the downside of playing discard right now. But we'll go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to be playing best of 1 like I normally do, going for 3 wins. Hopefully you guys like it. This actually turned out to be a pretty fun deck in my opinion, and it's an archetype we're not seeing a ton of right now, so that's why I wanted to give it a go. Alright, our opponent gets to go first, which is sad, but I think our hand's pretty acceptable here, so I'll go ahead and keep. Try going for Vadmir early with Liliana. May even try going with that Unholy Annex for card draw, could be really helpful. Let's start with Vadmir and see where we can go with it. It may just get destroyed right away. Okay. Nothing from our opponent means I'm probably going to go with Bandit's Talent. It is unfortunately an each opponent effect. Killing our Vadmir has no relevance here because of that. Because this wouldn't have been a targeted effect, our Vadmir wouldn't have grown. 1 land, which I'm actually pretty happy with. We're going to go with the Investigator here. Even if they kill it, we're getting 2 cards out of hand. No kill spell yet, actually a good sign for us. Deadly cover-up from our opponent, but what will they exile? Maybe our Investigator? Does get rid of our one in our hand, but that just means that we actually get to draw an extra card. We've got the land here, I think. Well, I was going to go with the Unholy Annex, but yeah, I still think that's probably the best play. Just get us a big demon out there and the potential to start drawing more cards next turn. Day of Judgment's pretty relevant. Yeah, we got an easy win there. Our opponent wasn't doing anything with their board. I didn't see a single creature. So we were going to have a pretty easy time, and they were having a hard time keeping cards. We have Liliana, we have Tiny Bones. We were going to start really draining their hand out and getting potential card advantage between Unholy Annex, Bandit's Talent. It was looking not great for our opponent there. And we even have Soulstone Sanctuary to get another demon out if we wanted to go that route. So a lot of really good potential here, I think, to where they were kind of, well, they were wasting a 4-drop destroy all creatures for one creature. So that's very telling. Alright, this is actually a pretty good looking hand here in my opponent. The opponent goes first, so that kind of sucks, but we got a lot of discard here early, which is really good, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. Looks like it's going to be a really aggressive opponent, which is actually, like, just terrible for us. But we'll see what we can do. Hopefully it doesn't go too bad, but I don't expect to win this against a really aggressive opponent. Yeah, I think that was a really poor choice, but, you know, whatever. He should have saved that until he had his, the enchantment that this obviously is built around. I can't even remember. Roots. Haywire Might. It's pretty good. Of course, if he pops his Haywire Might now, I can just make him discard another card and play another one. Which is the plan. So now he's got to get rid of another one. I did go ahead and level it up because I think that's going to start bringing us more value now too. He's having land trouble, which is great for us. Let's go ahead and I don't have a graveyard, so we're going to go with Hostile Investigator, good-ish blocker. Get another discard out of their hand. We get a clue token. So we do at least have damage going in on their side now, and though it isn't amazing, we do have blockers. Tyvar is not great for us to see.
Let's see what this hex gold can do.
Got rid of his roots, which is hilarious. Another Haywire Might, interesting. I think with that being the case, making him discard something again isn't going to have much value. Let's get Kaervek out, and doesn't really make any difference when we do this because we can't play that yet. I think I'm going to save this for cracking the clue, though I could go for another Bandit's Talent, but he doesn't have any cards in hand right now, so it just doesn't have any value. We're actually getting really lucky that he doesn't have a Roots right now. It's helping a lot. feel like that was pretty pointless too. He doesn't have the mana to play any of those. So, bit of a... I don't know, I guess so he has another Haywire Might, okay. No cards in hand, but that does mean we probably don't want to play our other talent yet.
There's that second wind.
Badmir's pretty nice, but we don't have anything on our opponent at the moment, which really sucks. Still, that being said, is there anything? Gotta have 4 for that. Really wish the opponent had something for us to force them to discard. Without any real discard value here on our opponent, I don't think there's any good purpose to play Bandits. We do get to grow our Vadmir at least. Can't play that Hostile Investigator yet, unfortunately. I'm gonna get the Bauble Bandit out, just on the off chance that they hold something in hand for some reason. So we've got good blockers for pretty much all of his creatures now, at the very least. And he still doesn't have roots, which is fantastic. I'm totally fine with that. Hopefully he keeps this card in hand. I expect he probably will. Come on. Don't play it. Don't play it. Okay. So yeah, we're looking good. We actually have something we can make them discard now, whatever it is. I don't even care. I just care about getting it out at this point. I think blocking with Karavek's still probably our go here. So he gets to replay that. I don't think that's worth doing, really, but whatever he wants to do. So I'm going to go with, honestly, probably both now. Let's go Hostile Investigator first, because that's going to trigger our Vadmir as well. Got Tyvar out. Interesting. Could do this for another discard trigger, but I don't think it's worth it. I'm probably just going to pass here and probably try to use this clue token. Hopefully he holds another card in hand, but I just don't see it happening. That would be ideal, though, is if he holds one more card in hand that we can steal, even if it's just something like a land. Okay. We got a win. It was slow going, but I think we had an opponent that wasn't really making the best plays. They were kind of just doing anything that they could do instead of trying to get optimal value out of anything. If he didn't play this, whatever it is, I'd get it with Bandit's talent. No triggers on Vadmir, unfortunately, but we could get another Hostile Investigator ping to get more clue tokens. I was going to crack another clue token at the end of this turn. So things were looking pretty good, at least. The real problem, like I said, with discard is your opponent might just not have anything for you to make them discard, but it worked out. I think this worked really well here, despite our opponent having a deck that played really well into the, like they were using the Haywire Mites to get rid of our enchantments and stuff, so they had a lot of value there, but they were burning these Rubble Belts way too early. They really should have tried to get Insidious Roots out first, but I mean, they didn't get lucky. Their Insidious Roots didn't end up getting into their hand. I think they milled it. I could be wrong there, but I think they Tyvar'd and milled it, which helped us because they didn't have any means to get it back at that point. But anyway, we'll go into game 3. That's 2 out of the way now, so 1 more to go. Alright, opponent gets to go first, which is always disappointing, but that's just this game in a nutshell. You'll pretty much never go first, and you'll lose because of it. But I'll keep it, I'll give it a try. It's not very good, we don't have any removal. And we don't have 3 land, so we're going to miss land until we get Lily out, probably. Okay, we did get land, that's good. This opponent is going to be playing Selesnya enchantments. They're going to be pretty annoying. We'll probably lose. We do have a Liliana, so if they don't get extra creatures out, we might have a chance. Yeah, so there's a second creature, which is exactly what I said would be an issue. Go ahead and get rid of Ethereal Armor, because that's going to be the biggest threat out of those. We don't care about Audacity, we don't have any target removal at the moment anyway. I'm going to go with Braids, because it gives us a blocker and a card draw. It's not ideal, but it's something. Means he may not want to attack in. They're missing any kind of white land, so we're actually looking okay in regards to if they get something like Sheltered by Ghost. They can't do much about it. Opponent actually sacrificed the Audacity. That's pretty great for us, actually. But I'm sure he's fishing for that mana. What do we want? Honestly, I don't think we want any of this. We want land. That's what we want. I will happily make that trade. Hopefully he doesn't play another creature. Nice. Now we can Liliana.
One of your friends has to leave.
Alright, so there's our third win. That, I think, was pretty well played on our part. That could have been really bad for us. I don't think they should have attacked in. They probably shouldn't have gotten rid of their Audacity, though I don't know that that matters entirely. I think they were fishing for that white land, so I can understand that. I think Ethereal Armor was the right thing to get rid of. Maybe I could have gotten rid of the Audacity or Royal Treatment, knowing that they didn't have any white land, but this just seemed like so much more of a threat if they got that white land, because the Royal Treatment didn't matter. We don't have any target removal in our hand, and they have Ward on top of that, so it just wasn't going to be irrelevant. And then the Audacity, I could have made them discard it, but they kind of did the work for me in getting rid of it, so that helped. Then them not having another creature on the last turn meant that we could get rid of what they had left with Liliana, which was fantastic. And next we were going to be hitting their hand really heavily, maybe even getting Unholy Annex out to draw some cards, though I'm already kind of low, so I don't know if I would have made that play or not. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me, and give this a try if you're wanting to just do something different before the Aether Drift set comes out.